Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. So today we're going to do a review about a book called Tuesdays with Morrie, written by Mitch Albom. He's an American writer, so this is published in 1997 and since then it topped New York Times bestsellers list. This is a non-fiction. It's my very first memoir that I'm able to read since I got into reading books. I first read this more than 10 years ago and it's my first introduction to Mitch Albom's work, and since then I became a fan of the books that he writes. So it's always about family, he tackles about faith, loss, death, and most of all your relationship to your loved ones. He has written books with the titles like The 5 People You Met in Heaven, For One More Day, Have a Little Faith, which is another memoir, and The Timekeeper, and a few more. And so in the time of Lenten season, it was a long weekend, I was able to reread this book, kind of reminding me about life, some reflections as well about the important things, our journey here in this world, a few aspects about life basically. And I thought of sharing this book with you guys. If you haven't read it yet, that's good. Here's bits and pieces about this book, as this might be the book you may want to pick up next and add to your reading list. I'll try not to give away much of the plot and just describe it as best as I could. So what's the story about? So Mitch Albom, who is now in his late 30s, is a busy sports journalist whose life revolves around daily routine, where his focus is his work, always busy, always on the go. So he seems to be a slave of his demanding work, someone who has lost contact with his old college friends already, as well as not able to keep in touch with other people that he knew when he was younger, in times when he was still not busy yet. And then somehow just one of everyone else in adult life, juggling his busy schedule of doing things, earning money, in a culture where acquiring material things like car, new house, saving a lot of money in your bank account, it is a must. Or so everyone thinks, as what this book tells us. And so while Mitch Albom was at home with his wife and a TV show is on, he hears about a name being mentioned by a TV show host, who is Morrie Schwartz. And it suddenly rings a bell to him. And so Morrie Schwartz is a former sociology professor of Mitch Albom who is now diagnosed with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or ALS. Wikipedia says ALS is a disease that causes the death of neurons controlling voluntary muscles. So ALS is characterized by stiff muscles, muscle twitching, and gradually worsening weakness due to muscles decreasing in size. It may begin with weakness in the arms or legs, or with difficulty speaking or swallowing. The cause is not known in 90% to 95% of cases, but it's believed to involve both genetic and environmental factors. The remaining 5 to 10% of cases are inherited from a person's parents. No cure for ALS is known. And now, after Mitch Albom saw Morrie Schwartz on TV being interviewed about his life, about his illness, he then tried to contact Morrie and eventually visited his house and had a conversation about important things in life basically, and recounts his memories when he was still a student and how Morrie was when he was still a teaching professor in the university almost 20 years ago. And so they agreed to meet every Tuesdays, documenting their talk as to be their last thesis together. They talk about a subject which is the meaning of life, not in theory, but based on experiences by Morrie Schwartz, who is now in his 70s, who is sick and dying, and a former professor, with Mitch Albom being a student again. What are your least favorite parts of the book? Well, it's difficult to read a book that tackles about death. It's just painful. But we have to come to terms of the reality of life, isn't it? As what the book tells us, it's part of the deal we made when we were born in this world. So yeah, what do you like about the book? I like the storytelling. It is simple, it's straightforward, nothing fancy, easy to follow, easy to digest. It'll make you really ponder on things, because what is being tackled here in this book is really of important things about life, which I myself ignore sometimes. As someone who is already used to everyday living, you kind of set things aside because we are preoccupied of what we think is important in life, when really it's us making life a complicated one. When I first read this book, I was 18 or 19, and I couldn't fully absorb the topics they talked about here in this book. Sure, you get bits and pieces of sort of life advice here and there, but now that I am on my 30s, that's where things start to fully sink in. It's a wonderful book. Nothing preachy here, nothing being righteous, but when you read this book, it just makes plain sense. It's just real talk, really. Anyway, here are the topics Mitch Albom and Morrie Schwartz talked about during those Tuesdays. They are able to meet and discuss things. So each chapter will be a discussion about a particular topic, like feeling sorry for yourself, about your regrets in life, eventually death, family issues, dramas, emotions, the fear of aging, money issues, about marriage, the culture we live in, the culture we have, and forgiveness. But not to give away too much of the plot, here are some passages that I like from the book. One of which is, so many people walk around with a meaningless life. They seem half asleep, even when they're busy doing things they think are important. This is because they're chasing the wrong things. The way you get meaning into your life is to devote yourself to loving others, devote yourself to your community around you, and devote yourself to creating something that gives you purpose and meaning. And another one is, don't cling to things, because everything is impermanent. Another one is, the culture we have doesn't make people feel good about themselves. And you have to be strong enough to say, if the culture doesn't work, don't buy it. You must create your own. And another one is, there are a few rules I know to be true about love and marriage. If you don't respect the other person, you're gonna have a lot of trouble. If you don't know how to compromise, you're gonna have a lot of trouble. If you can't talk openly about what goes on between you, you're gonna have a lot of trouble. And if you don't have a common set of values in life, you're gonna have a lot of trouble. Your values must be alike. And another one is, everyone knows they're going to die, but nobody believes it. If we did, we would do things differently. So who would you recommend this book to? Those who are looking for insights about understanding life in the bigger picture, with issues about life in general. A book that's easy to read, a short and simple story, but fantastically written. I know that we sort of have an idea already about life, but reading this book would give you additional insights, about those things we have a hard time understanding on our own. This book might explain things about life and shed some light on important things we thought do not matter, and often we take for granted, but really of crucial matters. This book really talks straight right through you. It's a wonderful book. It comes in at 192 pages. So there you have it, guys. Thank you for tuning in. If you want to see more videos like this, please like and subscribe to my channel. We'll talk about more books next time, and I'm your Pinoy booktuber. Basa-basa din pag may time. Bye!